me see. Oh, that's the neighbor's one. Okay. And who else we got? I'm on the phone, so it's hard to see. Yeah, Mr. Chance. Are you free, Chance? Or are you on the road? I think it's on Wednesdays when you're on the road.
No, I'm
yes,
free.
Yes. So, why don't you begin with practice of the previous verse and this verse, and then we did discuss quite a bit about the verse, even points about this verse in the previous class. So why don't you, Chapuji, begin line by line repetition of these verses, and I'll see if I can get this gas on.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
I will ask for Mr. Chance to back up with me.
Okay, yes.
We are in verse 16, right? Or 17?
Today 17, but yeah, we'll go over 16.
Okay, do you want me to start by verse 16? Or do you guys have it already? I don't.
16 sounds good.
Okay. Wait. Okay, I'm reading line by line, okay? Dvavimau purushau loke Shara eva cha Shara sarvani bhutani Kutashtakshara uchate. So, Dvavimau purushau loke. Dvavimau purushau loke. Sharaschakshara eva cha. Sharaschakshara eva cha. Shara sarvani bhutani. Shara sarvani bhutani. Kuttashtokshara uchate. Okay, so I can read again the first line, and some of you guys can repeat it after, and we can go one by one if you want.
Do you want us to like turn the mics on, or?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want.
To give, okay, sure.
Yeah, okay. Dvavimau purushau loke.
Dvaimayu purusho loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Dvaimayu
purushau loke.
Sharaschakshara eva cha.
Sharaschakshara
eva cha.
Sharaschakshara eva cha.
Sharaschakshara eva cha.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Kuttashtokshara uchate.
Kuttashtokshara uchate.
Kuttashtokshara uchate.
Kuttashtokshara uchate.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Sharaschakshara eva cha.
Sharaschakshara eva cha.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Kuttashtokshara uchate.
Kuttashtokshara uchate.
Okay, so if you want, somebody can read the first line and we can repeat. And then everyone has the chance to read out loud, if you want. Who can begin?
Chance, please, Prabhu.
Of course.
I was about to volunteer, but of course. So, first line. Dvavimau purushau loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Ksharaschakshara. Yeah. Ksharaschakshara eva cha.
Ksharaschakshara eva cha.
Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Kutastho kshara uchyate.
Kutashtakshara uchate. Thank you. Carlos, te toca.
Okay, gracias. Dwa imayu purusho loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Ksharas chakshara eva chara.
Ksharaschakshara eva cha.
Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Kutashto kshara uchyate.
Kutashtakshara uchate. Yeah. Shanaz, do you want to read?
Okay. Dvave imau pusuloke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Sharas chaksara eva cha.
Ksharaschakshara eva cha.
Sharas sarvani bhutani.
Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Kutosto shara uchaye.
Kutashtakshara uchate. Good. Sweet. Chintamani, ¿estás por ahí?
Sí, aquí estoy.
¿Nos ayudas?
Okay. Por supuesto. Yes. Okay. Dvavimau purushau loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Ksharas chakshara eva cha.
Ksharaschakshara eva cha.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Kutashtok shara uchate.
Kutashtakshara uchate. Sweet. Thank you.
Now with the eyes closed, everyone.
I was about to say that. That's why I was looking like far. So. I'm supposed I'm leading. Okay. Dvavimau purushau loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Ksharaschakshara eva cha.
Sharas chakshara eva cha.
Sharas sarvani bhutani.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Kutashtakshara uchate.
Kutashtok shara uchate.
Mr. Chance.
Without looking, huh?
Uh-huh.
All right. Dvavimau purushau loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Ksharaschakshara eva cha.
Ksharaschakshara eva cha. Don't look, don't look. Sarvani.
Oh, yeah. Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Kutashto kshara uchyate.
Kutashtakshara uchate.
Yeah.
Carlitos.
All by myself.
Okay.
Didn't look.
Good.
Dvaimayu purusho loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Ksharas chakshara eva cha.
Ksharaschakshara eva cha.
Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Kshara sarvani
No.
bhutani. Yeah, you're good. Sigue.
Okay. Kutishto sara eva cha.
Kutashtakshara uchate.
Uchate.
Close, but you're good. Thank you. Okay, Shanaz.
I think, can I repeat it after you?
You can read it if you want.
Oh, okay.
So you challenge us. We
Yeah.
are not going to be looking.
Okay. Dvavimau purushu loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Chakras chakara eva cha.
Sharas chaksara eva cha.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Kuta so sharas uchayat.
Kutashtok uchate. Thank you. Chintamani. Espero que no hagas
Okay.
trampa.
I will try. Okay. Dvavimau purushau loke.
Dvavimau purushau loke.
Ksharas chakshara eva cha.
Sharas chaksara eva cha.
Okay, I'm gonna look. I'm sorry. Shara sarvani bhutani.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Kutasto kshara uchate.
Kutashtok ushate. Good. Thank you. Okay, so we can build the verse line by line. So I will start. Dvavimau purushau loke. Mr. Chance, second line.
Sorry, I was moving.
Okay.
Ksharas chakshara eva cha.
Sharas chaksara eva cha. Carlitos.
Kshara sarvani bhutani.
Shara sarvani bhutani. Shanaz.
Kutasto sharas uchayat.
Kutashtok shara uchate. Good. Okay. Anyone can try the whole verse? 4 lines without looking.
Give us a couple of seconds, so
Okay.
so I can read it out loud here, or I
Okay.
can read it out loud right now, and so
Yeah,
I
of
can.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Dvavimau purushau loke. Ksharas
Dvavimau-
chak. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
Okay. Ksharas chakshara eva cha. Kshara sarvani bhutani. Kutashto kshara uchate. Okay, I will learn it right now.
Okay, Shanaz, can you read it for us?
Yeah.
Just read it.
Okay. Dvavimau purushu loke. Sharas chaksara eva cha. Shara sarvani bhutani. Kutasto shara uchate.
Ushate. Good. Carlitos, do you want to read it?
Sure.
Do you want to try?
I'll try.
Yeah. Bien.
Dvaimayu purusha loke.
Wait.
Sharas,
Wait. Estás poniéndole una I al final.
¿A
You're
cuál?
adding an extra I. Imaui.
Imau.
Imau.
Okay.
Ajá.
Imau. Okay. So Dvaimayu purusha loke. Ksharas chakshara bhutani. No, evacha.
Evacha.
Start again. Dvaimayu purusho loke.
Imau.
Imau. Dvaimayu purusha loke. Sharas chakshara evacha.
Le estás poniendo la I. Imau.
Sorry.
Dvavimau.
Imau.
Ajá. That's right. Ajá.
Dvaimayu purusho loke. Ksharas chakshara evacha. Ksharas sarvani bhutani. Kutashto
Sí.
kutashto uchate.
Good. Okay, I will try also. Dvavimau purushau loke. Sharas chaksara eva cha. Shara sarvani bhutani. Kutashtok shara uchate. Mr. Chance.
Okay. All right. So Bhavimao Purushao Loke, Sharaschakshara Evacha, Shara Sarvani Bhutani, Kutasto Shara Uchyate.
Good. Chintamani, you want to go again?
Yeah. Before I go, I wanna ask something, because I entered the Zoom meeting a couple of minutes after you started. Did you already go like to the meaning of the verse or not?
We went, but I think that it was last session for
Oh,
verse
okay.
60.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
estamos como
It's because
repasando.
okay,
Mhm.
perfect. Okay, I will go. Dvavimau purushau loke, ksharas chakshara eva cha,
Mhm.
kshara sarvani bhutani kutashto kshara uchate.
Good. Perfect. And if you guys want, those who have the Bhagavad Gītā in English, because I find it in Spanish, you can read the meaning, Mr. Chance.
Yes, I'll go.
Okay.
First, I'll go through the a little bit through the word for word.
Okay.
Wow is pu. Imao in this world, or in this world. Purushao, living entities. Purushao, it's one that we've had in a few other verses in a different form. I think just in, yeah, I have to look back for it, but we've had that a few times. Him talking about the living entities. So that should be a word that's a little bit familiar to any of us who've been in the class for a little while, or just looking over the past few verses. I can't quite see it yet.
I'm trying to remember which verse are you talking about? Purusha.
Bhutva means the living entities as well, and Bhutani is actually in the same one too.
Yeah, but I can't remember if he was before the Purusha.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of
on the name of the chapter, maybe.
There's that as well. But so yeah, Purusha, living entities, Loke, in the world. That one was just a few verses back.
Mamevam sojiva loke.
Okay. Yes. Mamevam sojiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatanaha, harmanu bantini manushya loke, prakritisthani karshati. Text 7.
Good.
Shara, valuable. Cha and akshara, infallible. Eva, certainly. Cha and Kashara, the valuable. Sarvani, all. Bhutani, living entities. Kutastaha, in oneness. Akshara, infallible. And Uchyate is said. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and infallible. In the material world, every entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every entity is infallible.
Good.
That's just the regular translation. Yeah. And I have, I think, the reprinting of the 72 Macmillan edition, which is often which is a few words different often, and versus I think the other most common edition.
Okay.
But essentially all says the same thing. So that's the translation.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
Because we were having our private meeting after this. First verse that you can remember where it is used the word uchate.
Uchate. What is it?
Uchate or uvacha?
I'm not that familiar with the verses to just pick out words, but I'm sure if I just start going over all of them in my head.
The first verse.
The first verse. That's what I was thinking. The first verse is uchate in it.
Well, it is uvacha.
Or uvacha. Okay. Yeah, uvacha. Yeah.
Okay. So we should. Should we do this verse again, or we can move to the 17? Which
Maybe
I
we just
know
move to
nothing about it.
Neither. maybe we just move to 17 and then get as much practice as we can.
Okay.
So
I haven't even read. Did you read it before, Chance? 17?
not really.
You already knew it. Don't lie to me.
I don't. I've been catching up. I missed some classes.
He knows all of them.
¿Verdad? Right.
See?
Maybe in a past life.
There is no meaning for you to lie to us.
You're so humble.
No.
Okay, let's try to read it. Do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
So text 17. Uttama Purushash Anyaha or Anya. I'll say that one more time. Uttama Purushash Anya.
Uttama Purushastvanya.
Yeah. Second line. Paramat Meti Udaritaha.
Paramatmeti udahritaha.
Paramat Meti Udaritaha.
Paramatmeti udahritaha. That's a tricky one.
Yes. Actually, perhaps I did lie. I looked over it I read it once.
We already knew it, Chance.
Once. I don't remember any of it.
This is for me the first time that I'm reading. I do say the truth.
Third line. Yo loka chayam avisya.
Yo lokatrayamavishya.
Yo loka chayam avisya.
Yo lokatrayamavishya.
Vivarti avyaya vivash ishvaraha.
Bibhartyavyaya ishvaraha. Avyaya. Do you remember that word? Avyayam.
Yes, avyayam. Yeah, I can't just like pick out words from verses.
I think it's the first verse.
Avisha, no?
Yeah, I think it's Avyayam.
Avisha Chabutani.
That's right.
14.
Also, but I was thinking about verse 1. Urdhvamula madashakam ashvatam prahur avyayam.
Ah, yes, avyayam. Eternal. Avyayam.
Yeah, inagotable.
Okay. Avyaya ishvaraha.
Okay, I will read it. Uttama purushastvanya paramatmeti udahritaha yo lokatrayamavishya bibhartyavyaya ishvaraha. Uttama purushastvanya.
Purushatvayana. Anya. How do you say that?
Anya.
Anya. Okay.
Twanya. You can put together the third and the fourth word like twanya.
Okay.
Paramatmeti udahritaha.
Paramatmeti udaritaha.
Udahritaha. That's a tricky one.
Udahritaha.
Yo lokatrayamavishya.
Yo lokatrayamavishya.
Bibhartyavyaya ishvaraha.
Bibhartyavyaya ishvaraha.
Okay. Do you want to read it, Carlitos?
Sure. Uttama purusha tvanya.
Uttama purushastvanya.
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 Ok, puedes pasar al segundo. Uttama Purushastvanya.
Paramatmeti udahritaha.
Paramatmeti Udahritaha.
Paramatmeti udahritaha.
Paramatmeti Udahritaha.
Should I move on or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yo lokatrayam avisha.
Yo Lokatrayamavishya.
Bibharti avyaya ishvaraha.
Bibhartya Vyaya Ishvaraha. Thank you. Shanaz, do you want to read it?
Okay. Uttama Purushastvanya.
Uttama Purushastvanya.
Paramatmeti udahritaha.
Paramatmeti Udahritaha.
Yo lokatrayam avishya.
Yo Lokatrayamavishya.
Bibharti avaya yaishvarahi.
Bibhartya Vyaya Ishvaraha. Good.
Ishvaraha.
Ishvaraha. Chintamani, do you want to read it?
Yes. Uttamah Purushastvanya.
Uttama Purushastvanya.
Paramatmati Udarhritaha.
Paramatmeti Udahritaha.
Yo Lokatrayamavishya.
Yo Lokatrayamavishya.
Bibharti avyaya ishvaraha.
Bibhartya Vyaya Ishvaraha. Good. And if I ask you guys for the first line of the previous verse without looking.
It started with twa. Dua.
Dvamayu purusholoke.
Dvavimao Purushaloke. Okay, the second line.
Sharas chakshara
Shara
evacha.
eva cha.
Sharas Chakshara Evacha, the third line.
Shara sarvani bhutani.
Shara Sarvani Bhutani. And
Kuttashtok shara uchate.
Uttashtak Shara Vishate. Good.
I just felt like I was in school right now.
We
Do you
are.
remember what we talked about yesterday? No.
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 Chandra, I hope you're proud of us.
Yes.
Very good, very good. Yes, yes. Wonderful.
Oh, you are
See,
driving.
it's all Krishna's arrangement.
Yeah.
Krishna's arrangement.
Totally.
Like, the students took the class over.
Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur commentary on, I think it's in the 10th canto or first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he says, of the three, the person who's giving the class, the person who's asking the questions, and the person who's just passively listening, the one who's giving the class gets the most benefit.
Yes.
So there's this. Then second is the one who's asking the questions, and the third is the guy kind of sleeping there, half asleep there. The one who's there listening. So it's Krishna's arrangement. You guys are teaching. That's
Sandra,
that's.
I'm going to ask you, like you asked us. Do you have any reflections or opinions?
Do you have any reflections?
In this verse?
So on which one? For
17.
17. So yeah, this is that stinger. This is the verse that clarifies the position of the Supreme Being. That he's actually, I found a really cool point. I think it's in Baladeva Vibhushan's or Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. He says there are two things that either of the previous parties can't do. The previous parties, the previous groups are the Shara and Akshara, the fallible and the infallible, are conditioned and liberated. And what are those two things that they can't do? Is Yolukachayam Avisha. They don't, no, there's nobody who enters into the planets who can say, oh, I enter all planets and Vivarti Ava Ishwaraha, and I maintain all beings. Excuse me. You can't say the conditioned souls are maintaining all beings. So somebody might say, well, what about the liberated souls? Can't they be super powerful and like maintain all beings? Well, the whole point is that they're liberated from the material world. They have no interaction with the material world. They're completely separate and disconnected from the material world. So how would they be maintaining all living beings, and how would they be involved in the material world? I'm looking for my phone stand. And so actually this is that subject of Krishna being this unique position. There's only one person in existence who can control and at the same time be completely aloof. Got no dance chance coming back in. I'm not sure if I missed anybody while I was trying to get this gas thing on. If anybody got kicked out and I try to get back in. So now I'm back home. Let's see. Welcome back, Chance. Did your internet bump you?
Oh, I accidentally opened some Zoom window and then tried to close it, and then it kicked me out of the meeting. And I don't know what I did.
So here, let me just grab 2 books here. Alrighty. So yeah, that I believe it is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur who makes that point, that this is something that the previous 2 groups of beings can't do. Let's see. Sarata Darshini. Yes, Machara Matitahum. That's the previous one. Okay, maybe it's Baladevi Devushan. Okay, verse. Okay, yeah, it is Baladevi Devushan. As the controller, he enters the 3 worlds and supports everything. This position of supporting and protecting the universe cannot refer to the conditioned jiva, because he cannot perform such actions. It cannot refer to the liberated jiva, because he's devoid of interaction with the world. So this verse is, he's pointing out clearly how those 2 things, yo loko trayam. What does trayam mean? What does loka mean?
World.
World. And traya?
3.
Trini. 3 worlds, yeah. And avisha. What does avisha mean? We've heard this verse is somewhere else. This word.
Like entering.
Entering. Where is
Gamma Visha Chabutani.
Gamma Visha Bhutani. Daryaham. Yeah, he's already given he says, I enter the planets and cause the gravity to hold them together. Daryam, I'm holding them. So he says here, Yolokachayam Avisha and Vivarti. Vivarti means to maintain. So yeah, this cannot be the liberated, cannot be the condition. It makes a really clear case that you're not God, not in the conditioned state, not in the liberated state. You are not Bhagavan. You can be Brahman, you can be the spiritual energy of Bhagavan, but you're not Bhagavan. So it's really a clear statement. Any other reflections? Anybody else? Chapuji, any reflections?
No, I think that we didn't read the meaning of the verse. So
okay, so Uttama. What does Uttam mean? This is where the chapter gets its name.
Like superior, the best.
Superior, the best. So again, what Chance, what DC comic hero has his name from this chapter?
Superman.
Superman. This is yoga, Superman yoga. Uttama, this chapter is called Purushottama Yoga. So Purusha means man. Like if you go to the India, you'll see the I think it's what, maybe Maituni or something. It says
Kind?
For ladies. What?
So is it like mankind, but with the man within the mankind? I think
Purusha means person, or it means male. And so man is, it's like English word man.
yeah, like the mankind is also, it also means like a person, right? But it has the
Yeah.
word man in it, so it's kind of like
Yeah.
Purusha. Anyways.
Well, we get mankind from Manu. Manu is the Sanskrit word for humankind. Man, the first man. Manu Shanam Sahastreshu. Krishna says, Manu Shanam Sahastreshu. Out of many thousands of men, and that specifically means, or like mankind, people. Kashchid, Sahastra means thousand. Kashchid, hardly. Yatati Siddhaya, hardly one is seeking truth. And Yatatam api siddhanam, out of those, or out of that smaller section that is seeking truth, Kashchin man veti tatvata, hardly one knows me in truth. So it's a very small section of souls that are gaining that connection with Krishna. But I was also going to think of this chapter, that last verse, last point of the verse, Vivarti Avi Ishwaraha, and this Yolokotrayam Avisha, how he enters the planet. So this is in chapter 7. Krishna says, where does it start? I might have to start at the beginning. Chapter 7 is another one I got down. So it goes, what's the first? Mai Shaktamana Parta Yogam Yunjan Manashaya Shamshayam Samagramam Yatat Gachiti Tachinu Ganateham Sabi Gyanam Vidam Bakshami Sheshata Yachgatpani Havyo Najkatabam Avishishate Manushanam. Oh yeah, there's that verse. Manushanam Sahastreshu Kashchid Yatati Siddhaye Yatatamapi Siddhanam Kashchin Maveti Tatvataha. Oh no, sorry. This is chapter 9 is where the verse that I'm looking for. The verse I'm looking for is chapter 9. I think it's 4, 5, and 6. I think that's where it is. So chapter 9 is Idam tu te guyata mam prabhakshami anasuyave gyanamigana sahitam yachkatva mokshashe shubat Rajavijirajaguyam pavitram idamutamam pratyakshabagamam parmyam susukam kartamavyam ashadana purusha dharma sasya parantapa praptamam nivartante mitya samsara vartmani maitatam. Now I think I'm getting closer to what I'm looking for. Maitatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshtavashtata nachamatstani bhutani paschame yogamaishuram Bhuta Britana Bhutashno Mamata Bhuta Bhavana. Bhuta Brit. I believe that's related to the Vibharti, this maintaining. Bhuta Brit. Yasmat Shara Matitoham Akshara Apichara Tosmi Lokitya Prahita Yomame. No, I'm jumping on to another chapter. So Bhuta Britana Bhutashno Mamata Bhuta Bhavana. Yatakashtastito Nityam. So here, Krishna is talking about this very peculiar relationship, how he is involved in this world, and at the same time, as what was the question today? There was a question, renunciation. How is he renounced, or what is he supposed to renounce? And the answer was given that he is renounced. He has no like we might lose our favorite pen and we flip out, and Krishna has no attachment to the matter. It could, It all comes into him, it goes out. He has no attachment to the material energy. It has no pull on him. And it says that this thing is that relationship of controlling and at the same time not being attached to what you control is inconceivable. But then it gives an example of this inconceivability. And so here's a question. If you give an example for something, didn't you just make it conceivable? If it's inconceivable and you give an example, and so they brought up this example. Krishna says, "Yatakashastito nityam," just as the air is flying through the atmosphere, the sky. It's flying freely through the sky, but at the same time, it is limited by the limits of the atmosphere. Just like the atmosphere is like a bowl, upside down bowl, and the air is like flowing through it, but it doesn't go beyond that bowl, it doesn't go beyond the atmosphere. And so similarly, there is a type of freedom, and then there's a sense of control. And the reason why the answer to that question, how is Krishna saying it's inconceivable, then giving an example, is that he gives an example from lifeless matter. Because the only other example where a living entity is in control of a situation and not being affected by that position of control is Krishna. Nobody else is in control of a situation and not affected by that position of control. And Srila Prabhupada gave an analogy of this. He said, I'm an insignificant human being. But due to my disciples' love for me, this whole movement is going on. Temples are being started in different parts of the world, and the artis are going on, and the classes are going on, and the festivals are going on, just out of their love for me. And he said, I'm just an insignificant person. So he said, what to speak of Krishna? So Krishna's energies, they act according to his direction, but it's not like he's really or his desire, but it's not like he is really entangled in that, like affected by it, moved by it. Like what they say, the unmoved mover. He's just not, it's just because he wants it to happen, his prakriti, his energies make it happen. Does that make everybody following that point? And so he says here in that last part of that verse, Baladeva Vibhushan, is that nobody else is in that position where they're maintaining all beings, Vivarti, and there are Yoloka Trima Vishya, entering the three planetary systems. Only Krishna is in that position. Only God is in that position, is that supreme being who's above, who's different from the described. He's distinct from the conditioned and liberated. Now, it's not an absolute distinction in the sense that we do understand there is a oneness. There is like otherwise there would be no relationship. You know, just like the fire and water doesn't really have a relationship. They're so distinct in their qualities. They don't really mix together. So the soul and God does mix because they're both in that there is a oneness. There is a Satchid Ananda, eternality, knowledge, and bliss. Substance. It's like what they're made out of. God is made out of eternality, knowledge, and bliss, and the soul is fragmentally also made of eternality, knowledge, and bliss. And so thus they can interact with each other because they're made out of the same stuff, you know. So there is a oneness, but these verses right here is highlighting and explaining that dvaita, that duality. Because what is the word yoga? Yoga means a union of two. Actually, in mathematics, the word yoga means addition in Vedic mathematics, and the word viyoga means subtraction. So yoga is the connection of two coming together. That's, in bhakti, we have this clear conception that you don't become God, you become lovers of each other, two together. Any reflections? So yeah, let's go to the verse. Uttama purushashtvanya. So anya, this is a word you'll hear also. That's the key word, not verb, but the verb. Other. What's word? Other is what the word other is a noun. Who knows? Help this fool. The word other, is that's a noun? Actually. So but that's one of the key words right there. Uttama purushashtvanya. There is another. And that's the Uttama, the Superman. And he is celebrated, udahrita. He is known and celebrated by this term, Paramatma. Paramatma. Yolokachayamavisha. The one who, like there's yaha, adjective, there we go. Yaha, yo, means who, like that one, Lokatrayamavisha, world, three world, avisha enters, and vibharti maintains, avyaya means he's inexhaustible, ishvara, controller. Any questions or comments? Seeing Shaznaz. Did I say the name correct?
Shanaz.
Shahnaz. What kind of, what's the origin of the name? Like what language?
It's a Persian origin.
Persian. Shahnaz. Okay. So we just, we're learning how to.
I just want to say thank you. This is very thorough, and I appreciate everyone doing this.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, as Srila Prabhupada said, the Sanskrit is like a treasure trove, and we're going to mind it. We're going to dig deep into all of them, and there's so much to reflect on. Like just at that point here, I've had these memorized for quite some time, but then I don't remember this point here that I just, from reading today, I saw, oh, he's saying the personality of Godhead, the Ishvara, the Purusha, the Paramatma, he is distinct, that the other ones don't do those things. The other ones don't do the entering the planets, maintaining all beings, not the liberated, not the conditioned. Cool. So how's everybody's verse recitation? Anybody want to continue? Do the verse recitation? I'll say it once. Uttama purushashtvanya paramatmeti udahritaha yolokochayam abhishya vibharti avya ishvaraha. Are there any other particular verses that you're find them a little hard for you? Chance?
Do you mean as far as pronunciation or just understanding?
Yeah, both topics. Yeah.
I'm getting pretty good, I think, with the pronunciation, as long as I can hear someone go through the melody and just practice. But one thing I did want to comment on as far as meaning goes is that I think I love how you gave us the, at least in one of the initial emails, the PDF files to both the Chakravarti Thakur's and Vijayabhushana's translation or their commentaries on the Bhagavad Gītā, because I like to keep those open while I'm studying, while I'm going over, and look at all the different translations and commentaries. And often I find that one of them out of the three will help me understand it a little more deeply, or will have translated it a little better so that I can understand it. Particularly in text 10, Ukramatam Stitam Vapi, Panjinam Vagananvitam, Vimudhanan Upashyanti, Shantihana Chakshusha. I was having a little trouble with Prabhupada's translation. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. But I didn't really know that I was having trouble with it until I read, I think it was Baladeva Vidyabhushana's translation. And he laid it out I think both of theirs actually laid it out in a much simpler, translated it in a much simpler way. The foolish do not distinguish the jiva leaving this body, residing in it, or enjoying the sense objects. Those with eyes of knowledge realize this Atma.
Yeah. I remember Kushtuba Prabhu was mentioning this word quit. It's like a more of an older English, it says Dhritarashtra quits home, and it kind of gives different connotations in our brain when we hear something like that, like quits home. What do you mean quits home? It's like got fired from his home and he quit it or something. Where leave the body, leave the home, the Dhritarashtra leaves home. The foolish does not distinguish rather. Yeah, sometimes also, this point of we may read something and just it being phrased in a different way may help us to understand the significance of it. The same point. Sometimes we read something in the commentary, in the purport, and we may not understand the weight of it, and we see it written in a different way, or then it starts to make other connections. So yeah, thank you. I always like to read like 3-4 books at the same time. Like you could read, like for example, say you're on teachings of Queen Kunti, part of the Bhagavatam, then you could read like literally 4 different books. You could read Bhagavatam and the purports. You could read the book called Teachings of Queen Kunti by Srila Prabhupada. Is basically taking points from Prabhupada's lectures, or it's basically transcribing the lectures in like an extended purport. Then you could take Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. He has 12 volumes. He has his commentaries on the Bhagavatam. And you could take Burijan Prabhu's study guide of the first 4 cantos also, and you read them all at the same time. And yeah, it's really nice and makes all kinds of different connections and such. Yeah, as long as we, there is one statement that said, because sometimes you find that like right here in the Baladeva Vidyabhushana and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, you notice that they kind of translate verse 16 differently from each other. Baladeva Vidyabhushana does like Srila Prabhupada, the conditioned souls and the liberated jivas. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the conditioned souls and Brahman. And let's see what he says about Brahman, which is it's like the energy of Krishna, which also includes liberated jivas, but it's not really speaking in a sense of like, it's not really speaking in a sense of like beings. So it's a little bit different, but then the still point is that Krishna is beyond Brahman. He's beyond because the idea of impersonalism is that if you after liberation you just become the oneness, and then Krishna, the 17th verse goes to explain that same point, that Krishna is beyond that oneness. So even if you're, the idea is that after liberation you are Brahman, then Krishna is different. The highest person is different from this. He is described as Paramatma, and though he is this controller and unchanging, enters this three worlds and supports them. And so he also brings that same that contrast that I mentioned in chapter 9. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's one. He says, although he's the controller, and although he is unchanging, he enters the three worlds and supports them, meaning that he is controller and unchanging. He is unaffected, yet he's making things happen. So he's bringing that contrast there. So yeah, it also takes sometimes devotees are like young devotees are encouraged not to read so many different commentaries because they may get confused, or like, well, who's right? They're all right. It's a great big jewel, and there's different ways to get a bona fide understanding. Nowhere is somebody going to say in these commentaries, don't worship Krishna with love and devotion, and you are God, or some other philosophy. They're all coming to the same point, but they're kind of highlighting different aspects that can be learned from these verses. Like the same thing with Ramanujacharya. We could look into his commentaries, and we may learn some other cool points as well. I forget what's the name of the website, but there's a website which has a lot of commentaries on the Bhagavad Gītā, all in one spot. So the main thing is we get that these points are not covered over. This point that God is different from you, and that you become and then the highest understanding is to come to the point of loving worship. I think that's the next. What is the next verse we're on? Is 18. Yeah, 18. Yes. So this is still in that Sambandha section. Does everybody remember the three? What are the three? Who can tell us? Chapuji. Pandit Ji. What's the three?
Sambandha, Avideya, y Prayojana, or something.
Yes. And can you explain them?
I don't know if I can, but I remember that it was like something like the hypothesis, practice, and the goal, maybe.
Yes. It's so what's the understanding? So you're a soul, there's a God, you should serve him. So that's the hypothesis, the understanding. And Abhideya, what's the practice? Like we have books like Bhagavad Gītā deal a lot with the understanding. Who are you? Who's God? And then you have books like Nectar of Devotion, which talk about the practice of bhakti. Or Harinam Chintamani talks about chanting and things like that. So that's talking about the practice, Abhideya. And then you have books that talk about the gopis and the spiritual world and the deep relationships, like probably a book like Ujjwala Nilamani, or some of these esoteric books. They talk, or just even Krishna, the goal, like you get to play tag with Krishna. I'll touch him first. chase after. And everybody, you ever seen that painting? It's really cool. They're all chasing after Krishna, trying to tag him. Very cool painting. And so I think that's why I liked Peter Pan so much when I was a kid, because it's kind of like this, it's like Krishna and the cowherd boys. They're just having eternal adventures. Nobody gets old, and there's just adventures, and you got this great hero. He's just a lot of fun, and everybody likes him. He's a nice guy, and you're just young forever, and you just play around and have fun. All right, so I love the idea of eating mangoes with Krishna. These two verses always remind me of the example of throwing the pebble into water. Yes. Any last reflections? I think we can stop here. All right, so next verse, we'll continue on. Next, what is today? Today is Saturday. So next Wednesday, we'll continue on. That verse is, it's kind of, these are called, we mentioned here, Trishloki. You have to see I'll send to you the purport, the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on this verse. It's 3 pages long. So he gets a lot out of this verse. Yes, machharamati toham aksharat apichotamaha atosmi loke vedecha prahita purushotamaha. So this is the last of the 3 Trishlokis, these Sambandha verses, summarizing the whole Vedic philosophy. It's supposed to be like a summary of Vedanta, all the instructions of Vedanta, which I have yet to read and study Vedanta. Complicated stuff. That's also related to the Om Tat Sat of Chapuji's question she had about Om Tat Sat. So there's a lot of stuff about Om Tat Sat there. Om Tat Sat is also talked about. I don't know if you had a chance to see. It's the last verses of chapter 17 refer to Om Tat Sat. You can look there, yeah. All right, well, thank you very much. I hope we can do chapter 12 after this one. So yeah, Chapuji was also asking about chapter 12, and that's the chapter I don't know.
I think I told you chapter.
I'm like chapter 7. Let's do chapter 7.
Whichever. We will be happy to keep studying with you, so you can pick any chapter.
There's I have to do some research. There's a part in chapter 7 where Krishna says, always think of me, become my devotee. No, he says, that's Manman Bhava. He says, always think of me. And he says, if you can't do that, then practice devotional service. Always think of me as like the gopis. That's like the super high level. If you can't do that, then do devotional service. If you can't do that, then do some work in devotion to me. And then there's some other ones after that. And in the study guide, one of I think it was Burijan Prabhu, he said it's the order of it. It's a kind of a complex subject. The points after that it's not so clear. So I have to look at it and see if I can that it makes sense to me, because the first 3 are like kind of obvious, but then what comes next, it's kind of a little bit debatable. Okay, what is it saying? What comes next? It becomes a little bit complex, and he brings up this point in his study guide, which you guys should have a copy of. You can just look at that chapter 12 and see if we can figure that out. Otherwise, I know chapter 7. I know chapter 9, chapter 7. I know half of 10, but I'm willing to learn. I can also start something new, no problem. I just need to take a look and say, okay, can I understand this? And if we can, then I'll just have to do a lot more homework beforehand, make sure I have good enough to say on those verses. All right. So, yeah, and I think we take a little bit of a break, and it gives a chance to everyone to catch up anybody who's missing classes, and hopefully all of us, whoever is interested in staying, in completing chapter 15, we can try to make sure everyone completes it.
Yeah, I would appreciate it if, because I know from 10 to like 16 now, right? So I missed out on like a bunch. So it would be nice to have like either a week, 2 weeks to just get the first 10 shlokas done.
Yeah.
But
nice,
I do thank you for doing this, and whatever we learn next is going to be beneficial for everyone.
Okay. Nice. I like chapter 7 in the sense that it's good, it's like a lot of scientific stuff, the elements, and it's cool stuff. Chapter 9 is also great. I have to look at chapter 12. I feel more comfortable teaching things that I'm well studied in. But thank you. Okay, so thank you all very much for being here. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol, thank you.
Thank you very much. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.